What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is Orioles Today, and as always, I am Sean Ferguson. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this channel. And if you're a fan of today's episode, keeping in with the spirit of the 12 days of Christmas, please throw 11 Pipers piping at the like button. And if you're a fan of this content, please subscribe. Get yourself daily notifications for all of these daily video drops covering all things the Baltimore Orioles. Of course, the main topic that we are going to talk about is the Orioles made a splash. Pete Alonso officially signs in Baltimore, surprising so many across the league because they cannot believe that the Orioles actually made this big of a financial commitment to a single player. It is not something they have done in a long time, which we will talk about. And there's a few other topics that I actually wanted to get into on yesterday's episode, but there was just so many things happening around the rumor mill that I just did not have enough time to get into all of them. But I wanted to go ahead and fit them in on today's episode. But of course, most time will be spent on the number one topic. The Orioles officially signed Pete Alonso to a 5-year, $155 million deal. This is the second largest financial commitment that the Orioles have made to a single player. This goes back to when they signed Chris Davis to a 7-year, $161 million contract back in 2016 that will haunt the Orioles up till about 2040. I believe it's the very end of the late 2030s when that contract finally, we stopped paying it. But that was made before Mike Elias. Mike Elias started to get into charge, and I believe it was 2018, so that deal was before him. But with the ownership that Elias stepped into, who was ownership at the that was owner at the time, they were very hesitant on giving out those big deals after. But now we're in the second year of new ownership, and you are seeing a different feel, a different vibe. And that they even said this offseason, we have the money to spend. And Elias came out a few days ago and said, we have the payroll for 2 big splashes. Well, this is splash number 1. The Orioles apparently were very focused on getting Kyle Schwarber. They offered the same money, same length to Schwarber that the Phillies offered him, but he decided to go back to Philadelphia. He wanted to go back and play for his old team, and I totally understand that. And I said that on yesterday's episode too. He felt like he could win in Philly right now. He's comfortable in Philly. That is cool. But their attention immediately switched to Pete Alonso. They were set on getting a big time first base bat, and they get it. And I know a lot of you on this channel feel the same way that I do. It was a lot of hoping and praying, and you believe it when you see it, that the Orioles knew what areas of the roster that they needed to focus on the most, and they just needed to go for it. Elias, for the most part, said, we know what we need to do, and we have the money to do it. There's not many restraints on the budget. Cool. Go out and do it. And a lot of these rumors were coming out that the Orioles are interested in this person and this person. And I covered the O's possibly being interested in Pete Alonso a while ago, and I touched on it throughout the channel, and then I spoke about it yesterday, where Pete Alonso drove to Orlando to meet with the Orioles and other teams, with the Red Sox being another one. And it wasn't long after that it was said that Alonso was meeting with the Orioles, that Schwarber was going to Philly, and it made sense. The O's were all in on Schwarber, but he decided to go to Philly, and they acted on Alonso, which is a massive deal. Massive deal. Again, 5 years, $155 million. It is going to be the highest average annual value given to a first baseman. It is crazy that the Orioles are the team that did it. They addressed the need. They've been addressing needs this whole offseason. And I've also seen too that some of you on the channel not totally agreeing with me when I say that the Orioles have been one of the busiest teams this offseason. They have been. And not every move that they have made has been a needle mover. And that's not what I'm saying when they've been busy or aggressive, because they have been one of the busiest and one of the most aggressive teams this offseason. It's facts on all platforms, free agents, trades, and waiver wires, and moving guys around in the big league roster and in the minors as well. They know what they're doing, and they're rounding themselves out. They know exactly what holes they need to fill this offseason. They need another outfield bat. They got Taylor Ward. They needed a closing pitcher. They got Ryan Helsley. They were dead set on getting a first base bat, and they now have a massive one in Pete Alonso. He leaves the New York Mets to come on over to Baltimore. And when I saw this deal, I was absolutely taken back when I saw that this deal was made, because if Taylor Ward is even able to resemble what he was able to do last year in LA with the Angels, that's massive power that the Orioles need in that lineup. And then they just got one of the biggest bats in free agency next to Kyle Schwarber and Pete Alonso. And it's another guy who's coming off an epic year. He won his first ever National League Silver Slugger Award last year. And he was awesome. Batted .272 with 38 home runs. He had 41 doubles. He also had 126 RBIs. And the big thing is he played in 162 games. He played in 162 games, and the injury bug was something that the Orioles were just decimated by last year. So, not saying it can't happen to anyone, but to have that longevity of these guys that are able to come in and actually play, and it makes such a difference. And you get a guy who just put up the year that he put up last year, and he's been very, very consistent. And I believe it's the last 4, maybe 5 years where he's had at least 34 home runs. And yeah, it's the past 5 years he's had at least 34 home runs each year. He's got a career 264 home runs hit, and that is the power the O's need. Now, I've said this a few times. They did not have a single bat that hit over 17 home runs last year. You bring in a big bat in Ward and an even bigger bat in Alonso, and that is going to make such the difference to this Orioles lineup. And he's 31 years old. He's not past his prime. He's still in the middle of it. And he's a 5-time All-Star and a guy who is proven in this league, and you're not throwing money yet to a hope. You know what you're getting with Alonso. A lot of teams wanted him, and the Orioles were able to land him, and I'm so happy that he is coming to Baltimore. And I know there's a few that aren't going to be happy for some reason, but I believe the contract is good for what we spent. I think 5 for 155 for Alonso is totally fine. We knew that the O's were going to have to spend a lot of money, and there were some reports saying they might even need to overspend if they were going to outbid some of these teams. And they did enough to make it happen. And as an Orioles fan who, especially over the last 7 years with Mike Elias, we haven't seen deals like this. Going into last year, he hadn't signed a single free agent to a multi-year deal. Then he gets Tyler O'Neill, which I understand, but he did it. And then he does it for Ryan Helsley, and now the biggest under Mike Elias, Pete Alonso. So the Orioles are showing that they're not lying when it says that they're going all in. They want to win now. They need to bounce back. They're in an extremely competitive division in the AL East. They got to make things happen. They know what areas they need to address, and they have been. And now the focus turns to starting pitching. We will see what happens. I'm sure after I post this video, more news and rumors are going to come out about who the Orioles are focusing in on when it comes to starting pitching, because they absolutely have to focus in on that now. And there's been rumors about Edwin Cabrera that I talked about yesterday. Mackenzie Gore, that talk is starting to heat up. Who else? We'll find out. But the Orioles, I said they have to act quickly, and they did. The winter meetings are over as of yesterday, and before the winter meetings actually concluded is when they signed Pete Alonso. So the Orioles, they're acting quickly, and I'm happy to see it. They get Pete Alonso, and that brings up what are they going to do now with Ryan Mountcastle. I've said a few times on this channel that I do not believe that Ryan Mountcastle will be on the Orioles when the 2026 season rolls around. And I've seen a lot of you guys saying, okay, get Mountcastle and Mayo out of there. I think for sure I believe Mayo is going to stay, but I do believe Mountcastle is going to be gone. They're going to add him into a trade to get him out of there. Who is it going to be for? We will find out. Like I said, I've talked about Edward Cabrera yesterday, and Mackenzie Gore as well. More rumors have come out that the Orioles and the Nationals have been talking about a possibility of a trade. The Orioles and Nationals have never made a trade, which was a fun fact. So that would be the first ever trade between those two clubs if a deal for Gore does happen. I believe if they do go after Edward Cabrera, they could not have to give up as much for who they're getting, but they will have to give up a boatload to land Mackenzie Gore. But again, more and more signs now with Pete Alonso on the team that Ryan Mountcastle is going to be shipped elsewhere. And just so much happening with that move. And there's also a partial no trade clause that's going into that Pete Alonso contract as well. And it's still really fresh, so more and more details are going to come out about that contract that I will get into on future episodes, most likely talking about it more on the tomorrow's episode. But that is fresh right now, that Pete Alonso signing. Massive, massive deal, and it's massive for the Orioles. They are not letting the Blue Jays have all the fun. They're landing guys now too. And again, we'll see what happens with Ryan Mountcastle. And hopefully they do keep Kobe Mayo there and help him and continue to develop him. Now you get a great veteran like Alonso coming in, someone he can learn from as well. And the MLB draft for 2026, I thought this was funny. I said that Tuesday night will be the night that the draft order is released. The Orioles had the 4th best odds to land the number 1 overall pick. They do not. It goes to the Chicago White Sox, who had the best odds to win it all, or I should say to win the number 1 overall pick, and they do. The Orioles will have the 7th overall pick in the draft, and there just leaves more questions, which more we will get into, of who are the O's going to look at for the draft, which we'll talk about in future episodes. As right now, just a little bit more focus on all these possibilities of who the Orioles are going to get now with the signing of Pete Alonso. Who are they going to get now with the trade, and are they going to sign another free agent? Mike Elias said 2 splashes, and we have made 1. But the 7th overall pick, that will go to the Orioles next year. They actually had the 7th worst record in the league, so that made it kind of worked out. And now we have a new system now of how other teams are doing it, or other leagues, I should say. Other leagues are doing their drafts more of a lottery, but the Orioles had the 7th worst record, and they actually get the 7th pick in next year's draft, so nothing lost. But they did have the opportunity to possibly get that number 1 pick, but they fall to number 7, and that is okay. And just congrats to Gunnar Henderson. We have a Baltimore Oriole that will be representing Team USA in 2026 for the World Baseball Classic. He'll be the first Oriole since Cedric Mullins went, and it was so cool to see Cedric Mullins play in the World Baseball Classic representing the Orioles. It's always fun just to watch the World Baseball Classic, but even when you're more invested as a baseball fan, to see players from your own team go out there and represent is super cool. And the rosters are not completely set yet, so more names could come out and more Orioles could go elsewhere. There's a possibility of Tyler O'Neill playing for Team Canada. If Israel offers a spot up for Dean Kramer, I'm sure he will go there as well. But for the American side, Gunnar Henderson is joining Team USA in the upcoming World Baseball Classic, and we will see here over the next couple months. I believe the rosters don't even have to be announced and finalized until February, so there is still time. But for right now, Gunnar Henderson is the first Oriole to head to play for Team USA in the upcoming World Baseball Classic. So that is really, really cool to see. Congrats to Gunnar Henderson, and we'll see who else is named here in the next month or so. But that is going to do it for today's episode, guys. Again, the biggest news of the day, which happened yesterday. Of course, after I posted yesterday's episode, this news broke, so I had to wait until today to talk about it. But a massive, massive deal for the Orioles. Pete Alonso, 5 years, $155 million, and more details will come out. About, like I said, there's a partial no trade clause, and we'll see what happens with the Orioles roster and who they are going to designate for assignment or send elsewhere to add in a trade package. A lot is going to come out soon, and I'm so excited, and it's a good time to be an Orioles fan. If you were a fan of today's episode, please throw 11 pipers piping at the like button, and if you are a fan of this content, please subscribe. Get yourself daily notifications for all of these daily video drops covering all things the Baltimore Orioles. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode and to this channel. It really means a lot for all of the support, and I'm going to try to do the best I can to keep up with all of the news. Again, happy to be an O's fan. But this is Orioles Today. I am Sean Ferguson, and let's go O's.